Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Ed Roman, musician, traveler, philosopher, deep thinker. You can check him out. He's got a YouTube channel under Ed Roman. He has a number of albums. We're going to read his bio here when we get back from the World Wide Web of Weird, but we're going to delve into Ed's philosophies on many themes in the paranormal, and we're going to talk about his music, because as everybody knows, I've had a sunspot on here. I'm a former musician. Well, I'm still a musician. I love having musicians on here, especially the ones that really get into the weirdness like I did when I played in a band. All right, guys, we'll be with you in just one sec. All right, welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. Tonight, like I said, my guest is Ed Roman. I guess I'm going to read his bio after the World Wide Web of Weird. But Ed, thank you for being on the show. Are you ready to do some weirdness on the World Wide Web of Weird?
Always, my friend. And I prepared a bowl of soup.
Oh, awesome.
Paranormal
awesome.
Bowl of soup.
So it's got an alien, a Bigfoot, and a ghost. Hold on,
yes,
buddy.
And look, fresh garlic from my garden today.
Yes, I've seen it on your YouTube.
Garlic.
You're
to ward away
vampires?
No. Deep Trump supporters.
Close enough. Close enough.
Then what? Some sweetgrass and sage to remove the evil from the room. Open your door and window and let it flow out. It is not welcome.
Oh boy.
Then of course, let's go tacky, because I thought it was just you and me, and I wish I had two more. You know, for Todd and Jamie. Fortune cookies. So we will read these. There'll be something mystical in the propagation of prognostication inside these little cookie treats.
So we're gonna get our fortune in a fortune cookie. I'm waiting for that. I've never had a good fortune cookie. We'll see how yours turns out. All right, well, let's go ahead and roll on into the World Wide Web of Weird. You know, guys, I love to do this every Sunday night, and this one's going to, of course, be a weird one. Let's go ahead and get it rolling. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off with some UFO. This one took place over St. Louis. Okay, great. You can recognize the arch in the background. Well, this comes from Coast to Coast AM, and there's multiple videos of this. I only have the one video, I think, on here. Yeah, just the one. But you can find a number of videos from this. This is posted on August 3rd, 2016. Multiple videos have emerged of a mysterious light hovering over the St. Louis Gateway Arch on August 2nd, 2016. Illinois resident Chase Rhodes filmed the video around 2:30 a.m. while on break at his job as a cleaning consultant. Rhodes guessed that the light hovered about 200 feet over the arch. I've heard another estimate over 100 feet. It didn't fly over, Rose said. It just appeared. He refuted the idea that he saw a reflection of the light on top of the arch, nothing that wasn't red. And he's not the only one who saw something. Surveillance camera at Malcolm W. Martin Memorial Park also captured the mysterious light, which you can see, if you go to this link on Coast to Coast AM, you can see the other video. I only have the one on here. Fox 2's News contacted on National Park Service and Scotts Air Force Base. Both organizations claim there was no unusual activity and have no explanations for the lights. As usual, that's usually what they say. All right, let's go ahead and watch this here. So I think there was some audio. I don't know. Let me go ahead and hit the button of echo. If you hear a little echoing from the other guests, it happens when I play videos off here. It's only during the video. Sorry.
Jason, people are saying they're not getting your feed.
What?
Hey, I just reported chat, man.
Oh, no. All right, give me a second. Let me pause and find out what is going on. It says I'm broadcasting.
It's locked. It's locked on Ed right now. It's locked on Ed.
Thank you. I left
so
it
they
on
don't see your desk.
Okay, that is why. That is why. Thank you, Todd. Thank you very much. Now people should see my screen. Thank you, Todd. Like what I did to Jamie that one time when I locked the screen on her. When I was letting her evidence. Yeah, you can see you can see the resting face, Jamie. All right, so here is the video from St. Louis. And I don't think there was any audio with this, but you can see the light for people who end up listening to the audio version of this show. You can see the light above the arch. This guy kind of films up and down. There is another video.
So this is happening over the arch right now. I'd say it's probably a good 100 feet over the arch, if not more. A steady blinking light. Wonder if it's going to go away.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like it has any like the regular lights you would see like on a helicopter or anything that would be up there. It's odd, and you know, like
just appeared, fly over or nothing, just showed up.
You can't imagine it would be there can't be anything off in the distance that would be doing that. You would think. There's lightning.
Now, see, the thing about this is, I'm 15 miles south of LaPorte, and we were watching the fireworks at the show
that could be.
tonight. So, you know, how far away could that actually be?
Right. It's hard to say. And like I've said, somebody said it's 100 feet above the arch, and some people say it's 200. I'm like, we don't even know how it could be far back from the arch. I don't know how many feet it is up in the air.
You'd have to have different angles.
Yeah, there's only one other angle I've seen, and like I said, I saw it after I edited this video. All right, next up. This one is from the express.co UK. This is is it a floating city? Objects miles long orbiting Earth seen on NASA's live stream. Could this be a mysterious floating city that was seen by hundreds of people across the globe? Alien chasers claim to have spotted mysterious objects several times in the link that is orbiting the Earth in a NASA live stream from the International Space Station. And he claims the U.S. Space Agency cut the feed once it came to view. Of course they did. A year ago, express.co.uk reported how huge a number of people in China claimed to see a mysterious city escape floating in the sky, which we had on the World Wide Web of Weird. Thousands reportedly saw the ghostly alien city floating over Foshan in Guangdong province in China. Then a few days later, people in the province of Chinese words, man, are hard. Yangtze, China, I'm just going to butcher that, also reported seeing a similar cloud city. An alleged video recording of the event went viral online before details of similar sightings in other parts of the globe emerged. Now, YouTube user StreetCap1, who posts the details of the alleged UFO and paranormal activity, has released a video showing what he says is a massive object in Earth's orbit, which is possibly hundreds of miles long, captured on camera yesterday. The footage was taken from a new NASA camera on an International Space Station called the High Definition Earth Viewing Experiment. Doesn't look very high definition to me, but his video has begged the question of whether it could be the mysterious floating city some believe became visible through a portal from another dimension. In a video entitled Massive Golden UFO Orbiting Earth about the new discovery, StreetCap1 shows a bright object above the Earth is seen above. What is it? He says it's about 200 miles away. To me, Todd, do you think that could be reflections of sunlight in the clouds? It just doesn't look that amazing. And of course, they cut the feed. Like you.
Well, they always cut the feed, but it could be that mirage thing again that we've seen in the past.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a blob, a golden blob. I don't know where they get the city from it. This next one, I really like this one. Yeah, it could definitely be fake, but I really like this one. Luminous ball of light filmed in Siberia. A witness has captured footage, and this one also, came from Unexplained Mysteries website. A witness has captured a footage of what is thought to be a rare case of ball lightning on his smartphone. The glowing sphere showed up above a field near Novosibirsk, totally butchered that, I'm sure, Siberia's largest city, before slowly moving through the air and disappearing behind some nearby trees. The phenomenon was filmed by a Roman Tregubov, I'm definitely butchering that, a graduate of the Novosibirsk State Technical University, who can be heard referring to this spectacle as a fireball lightning in Russian. So he's speaking Russian. If anybody speaks Russian, and you tell me if this is what he's actually saying. I do think this is one of the legit ones. This isn't like the Section 51 or whatever it is, and they make a video of some foreign country, and they're talking about the birds, and they put a UFO in there and you think they're talking about the UFO. I think this is probably legit. I might be wrong. It's the first time I've seen one in my life, he said as he continued to film the orb. It's going to move. It's going to move away. I lost it. Where is it? There it is. I wonder if it'll blow off soon. Yep, it blew off. This is what he's saying during the video translated. Ball lightning is an incredibly rare natural phenomenon which typically manifests as a glowing orb. I thought this would be interesting. I saw him in the chat room earlier. Spooky and Raven have a show on YouTube. And they had a really good show recently about ball lightning, and I think he was 10 years old, witnessed ball lightning, and they interviewed him on their show about it. And it's so rare, you know, it's really a rare phenomenon if this is ball lightning. I don't know what it is, but it's really creepy. Let's take a look. It's hard to see, and I definitely want you guys, you know, check this out on my, you'll find it on my playlist on my under World Wide Web of Weird or Tonight's Show.
See, things I want to call BS on this one right off the bat, though.
Why is that? I want to hear it because you got a good eye.
Well, take any modern cell phone, point it at a bright light source, and watch what happens to the surrounding. The aperture stops down. Everything else goes dark as it tries to adjust the ISO for that light source. You can even do it pointed at your own TV or computer monitor.
So you think it could just be
anything? Come on, please, anything.
A really bright light just pointing at the camera. I mean, it'd have to be pretty bright, wouldn't it? I mean, to be doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's going to have to be really. If it's an older camera that doesn't have auto ISO or the auto ISO is disabled, then you can have that because that's a blown out spot. But see, that's the problem. Without knowing any more information, what kind of it's obviously a cell phone camera.
Oh yeah.
But without knowing what he's got.
They said it was a cell phone.
Yeah, well, you can see it's a cell phone just with the orientation of the video. It's just the problem is, take your cell phone. Yeah, everybody in the chat room, take your cell phone, put it on camera mode, point it at a light bulb or anything bright, and watch what happens to the surroundings. It's going to stop down to compensate for the bright lights.
That could have been that could have been anything in the background. That could have been like a car headlight or a motorcycle headlight or something like that.
Yeah. If it's a bright day, it looked gloomy and a little overcast. If that was pointed at any bright light source and it stopped down for that, then it's still going to be the brightest object in the picture. But it's just, you know, I want it to be true because I've always thought ball lightning was awesome.
Me too. Well, the only thing I could say about it is if the story is legit, what he's saying in Russian on the video, and he's not really faking it, you know, like that he really saw, he wouldn't see that same thing with his eyes. He would be able to tell what it is.
It's true. Very true.
That would be the only way to decipher the validity of, you know, if it's valid or not, and you don't know. That's you're always left with this, you know, more questions than answers when you get these videos that go viral, and that's the World Wide Web of Weird, always that way. All right, and this is another one's going to leave you questioning if it's real or not. This is the one that was posted on Coast to Coast AM. Pesky poltergeist agitates Englishmen. And attempting to investigate a potential haunting at a house in the UK resulted in chilling footage of dishes being thrown across a room and one very annoyed homeowner. The residents made news earlier this month when the owner, Ian Hawke, captured a possible ghost lurking in the streets nearby via his home security system. I showed that. I'm pretty sure this is the same guy. It was a ghost of like a little, he thought it was a little girl. Really, it was just like kind of a hazy image out in the street. So you know, when you start getting this much evidence, I get really, really, you know, like as an investigator, there's some people really go for the pooch and just start faking a ton of stuff. I don't know, but there's an investigation team here and with him in this video. When the video made headlines around the world, Hawke was relatively nonplussed about the incident and explained that his home had been visited by spirits in the past. However, his temperament took a turn for the worse during a subsequent investigation at home with paranormal expert Danny Taylor. A remarkable video from the investigation captured a mug and a dish inexplicably slide off the counter onto the floor, much to Hawke's somewhat hilarious jargon. The scene, which resembles a Brit sitcom, sheds light on one of the maddening aspects of hauntings that often goes overlooked. There are really no way to clearly communicate with ghosts. During the footage, Hawke grows increasingly irritated with the pesky poltergeist and argues with Taylor over whether or not He's antagonizing the spirit. That may be the case, as the video ends with a mug being hurled at Hawk and the fed-up homeowner declaring that he is leaving. Skeptics, of course, will insist that the entire video is an elaborate hoax perpetuated by Hawk to capitalize on his 15 minutes of fame. Should that be the case, we salute him nonetheless because he's managed to produce a widely entertaining sequel to his Ghost in the Road. And that one person gets maybe some real footage, and skeptics will say, well, maybe they got something real. But they didn't get anything ever again. So then they start to fake stuff to get attention. I've heard that from skeptics before. They're trying to throw us a bone, like, oh yeah, the first video might have been real, but after that, it's all fake. I've heard that before, and they could be right. I don't know. This is some pretty incredible stuff, but I know how it could be faked, easily faked. I mean, this could easily be faked. Just because it can be faked doesn't mean it is, though. So let's go ahead and watch.
Now, I'm not being funny, people. I'm going.
This is going to name water.
If there's legit investigators with him, respected investigators,
as in the name.
This more about,
seriously, that has just come. No, my phone's gone flat.
These kind of tricks.
Because you're antagonising.
Yeah, but I'm not antagonising. I just asked.
Yeah, but we had Manifest and we had the incubus demon thing come up earlier.
I'm going.
You've asked for a chat and they're asking you to chat to them.
Yeah, but look, it's come up with chat. I'm not going to sit here having things thrown at me.
Right there is where I question the legitimacy of the investigators, because he's using, and I have obviously I have friends that make paranormal apps, and I'm not against all apps, but there's some like this one that he just showed that I'm just sorry, I just don't have a lot of faith in.
I'm going.
You've asked for a chat and they're asking you to chat to them.
Yeah, but look, it's come up with chat. I'm not going to sit.
I've seen this app, I played around, I can't remember the name, but I know it, and it'll give you these words. I think one of my investigators has played around with it, and it just ends up annoying me because it's just popping up words.
Isn't that Spud Pickles one or whatever?
I don't know what that is. I can't remember the name of the app, but it's just like it's just the same reason. Maybe it could be legit. It's the same reason why I was never a fan of the Ovilus, because it just throws out words, and it takes away from focusing on what's going on around you. So that's why I kind of don't like those kind of apps. They're going to spit out words continuously. This one doesn't say it out loud; it just shows you the words. If you're not asking questions and it's not replying to it directly, you might as well ignore every word that's popping up. That's what I think about it. But go ahead, we're going to watch it.
Yeah, having things thrown at me. Hello?
Stop worrying. Calm down.
Hello? Are you there? Hello? If you're there, please show yourself. He's thrown it at me! Anything. Come on, please, anything. Come on, please, anything. Now, I'm not being funny, people. I'm going.
The incubus demon thing come up earlier.
Yeah, those apps spit out incubus demon all the time. That's why I don't like them. All right, we're on to the next one here. Another supposedly ghost footage. But on that, one more word on that. I mean, when you have grainy quality footage, it's easy to have a string. It's the simplest thing in the world to fake. I've seen it a billion times in these videos. I'm not saying that's what this is, but
I don't know. The paranormal rigidity of the plate in the cup is what's impressing me.
Really.
I dropped something hard on the counter and shatters.
Oh, just because they didn't break? Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah, they didn't break. But they're all being pulled in the direction of the voice. You know what I'm saying? This is classic. Could be a string. I'm not saying it is. I have no way of proving that. I have no way. No, it could be the real thing. And that's sadly the land of illusion we live in. That I don't know if that's real or not. And I could look at it 1,000 times, and you could even have an expert look at it 1,000 times, and they'll probably say it's probably fake. But can they give you 100% on that? Not until they find the string in the thing. And you have the grainiest footage, you're not going to see it. You won't see
the only one thing that struck me is my phone's gone flat out of those batteries. How many times have I seen that?
Well, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. And if he's gotten the ghost girl footage and he's gotten the this happened, if it's a hoax, there's going to be more. And if it's real, there could be more. I don't know. You don't know. Well, there's probably going to be more to show on the World Wide Web of Weird coming from this. We'll see. Only time will tell if this is legit or not. Or maybe never will tell. You never know. I mean, people are still arguing over the Amityville horror case. So, all right. This next one, let me get the article up for a minute. I think this next one's from Coast to Coast AM 2. Ghostly footage of a gate opening. This one, I don't get it. I saw this one go viral. They're saying that this is a ghost, and I'll just let you watch and see. The hoax or real man claims to have captured a CCTV footage of a ghost child opening his gate. The creepy clip has gone viral after a man claimed to have captured a ghost child opening up his gate. Homeowner Chris Mitchell Clare was left spooked after he witnessed on his camera the terrifying moment the gate on his drive burst open by itself. Mr. Mitchell Clare from Queensland, Australia, said he first discovered something eerie was going on when he discovered his gate had been left wide open. Discovering that it had been closed, he checked on his security cameras, fearing that the burglars may have broken in during the night. But when he found what he found, left him stunned. In the clip that he shared on Facebook, a ghostly figure seems to push the gate door wide open. Posting the paranormal clip, he wrote, "Shocking evidence I pulled off my security system this morning of something that would clearly validate the supernatural. This is raw footage copied straight from the DVR and captured off one of our cameras this morning. Notice during the split second of interference what looks like a child pushing the gate open." I'm going to go ahead and start playing it.
Hello?
Don't worry.
We're still talking
Hello?
about the pissed off Englishman.
Are you there? Hello?
Hold on. Right.
If you're there, please show yourself. He's thrown it at me!
Sorry. Laugh at that every time.
Anything. Come on.
Yeah, we really went bad far.
I'm going.
All right, sorry guys. I totally went way too far. All right, got to get it lined up just right. Wow, it's really messing with me tonight.
I'm going.
All right, here it is. So it's just that split second of interference that he's saying it's happened. And I'm going to do it again so quick, right there, that this is a ghost and the interference in that clip. I'm trying to pause it right there. Ah, darn it. It's supposed to be a ghost right there. Get it right on it. And, oh.
It's one frame.
One frame, exactly. I can't even get it to stop on it because it's just one frame. And I'm like, how do you suppose that's a ghost? I mean, it's weird that it clipped the frame and then it did it. But what people have said and what I see is the timestamp. Go back. Go back to it.
People are just anthropomorphizing.
Yeah.
I'm going.
All right. Seems like it changes to 635, and then it was 213 before, and it clips. Like he didn't just lose like one frame; he lost his camera for a good while, like a really good while. Like his camera shut off, and then something did open the gate. What was it? I don't know. But that one frame clip, I don't see a ghost child. Tell me if you do. I don't. It's supposed to be right here, and I don't. All I see is just.
I see pareidolia.
Yeah, I don't even get the pareidolia. I don't even get an image. I don't see anything.
I can see what they're going for there.
Oh, I'm not getting it at all. That's why I was wondering. That's why I want to show it because I don't get it. I don't see it. But this was going. I saw this posted on a bunch of. Yeah, what?
Looks like glimpse the screen.
No, yeah. And like I said, he tries to, in the article they talk about, he tries to say, oh, it's just the people criticize what I criticize is the timestamp. It's gone a whole 4 hours ahead. You lost the camera more than just in one instance. You lost it for 4 hours. And he's like, no, it was right back. That's just the time thing's messed up. No, you lost 4 hours somehow of video, or you took it out. I don't know, but it just doesn't change like that when it comes back on. You lost 4 hours of video. Unless he's, and he said he didn't edit it. It was right off the DVR. So I have my doubts on this one.
See, they're aliens.
Maybe he's being abducted. Maybe. All right, I think we got one more, maybe. All right, Bigfoot spooking town. This comes from. Well, let me just find where this article comes from. This is from Sociological. I love this website. Bigfoot spooking residents in small North Carolina town. Let me get to that. Pass this stuff here. Multiple people have claimed to see a large furry-looking animal running through the woods in Halifax County town, according to one resident there. I didn't have much of an article. Actually, this is a news report. That's right. So this is a news report of the witnesses here coming up as soon as I can get this video fast forward. Come on. It's going to do it too much. There we go. All right, here is
furry
the
animal
report.
trudging through the woods.
There's now even a museum dedicated to the sightings of what some are calling Bigfoot. CBS North Carolina's Carly Griffith has more from Littleton.
I literally could see him from all the way over here. I started hearing it.
Tiffany Merrill recounts the morning she saw a creature weaving through the woods behind her house.
It was very large, and its hair was running so fast.
Right away after, so could it have been a guy, a hunter, a guy in a ghillie suit, or a bear?
That's not like a bear, and it wasn't like a coyote. I've never seen anything like that whatsoever.
Stephen Barcelo is a cryptozoologist. He investigates sightings of creatures whose existence hasn't been proven. He says Merrill is not the only one who's seen what he believes to be a Bigfoot.
There's a lot of people in this town now who have sightings who still won't come talk to us just out of fear of being ridiculed, and that's very common.
Barcelo says one thing of the creature may be this. There have been logging of forests all around Littleton for the past 6 months, possibly disturbing the creature's habitat.
A sighting at nearby Medoc Mountain State Park turned up a good find for Barcelo. An abnormal footprint he was able to cast and show to park rangers.
We brought it in. They ended up calling another ranger in and another ranger, then the superintendent, and they had all bets were off. They had no idea what it was.
The unidentified.
Oh, that was the end of the video. I forgot. It cut it off. I ran out of memory on my phone. But you can find the news article on my YouTube playlist. If you go to World Wide Web of Weird, and this is for people, because I'm going to do audio editions of the show. If you want to see any of these videos for the World Wide Web of Weird, you can always go to Paranormal Soup on YouTube. You can watch the show video cast, or you can go to my playlist of World Wide Web of Weird. All my past videos I've shown in the World Wide Web of Weird are there. And that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird tonight. All right.
Yay, thunderous applause.
Ever since Connie Willis did it, now I'm like waiting for applause.
Yeah, it's missing. Come on, Ed, it's your turn. Okay.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest, Ed Roman. This is what you're listening to right now, is Ed Roman's musical stylings. Ed Roman is an award-winning singer, songwriter, performer, and multi-instrumentalist from Shelburne, Ontario, Canada. Blurring the lines between pop, rock, folk, and country music genres, Ed's uniquely crafted songs have received regular rotations on more than 100 terrestrial radio stations across North America. Ed is a 2014 Artist Music Guild Award nominee and a 2014 Artist in the Music Award nominee. He is also a 2014 International Music and Entertainment Association Award winner, a two-time 2015 IMEA Award nominee, a Josie Show Awards nominee, an Academia Awards winner, and a two-time Indie Music Channel Award winner. Ed has performed at the Red Gorilla Music Fest during the SXSW, the Millennium Music Conference in the SS Cape May, and he has toured New York City and Philly in July 2015. Recently, his Top 100 MTV.com artists traveled to Jamaica to deliver a much-needed humanitarian aid to the island while shooting the music video for Jamaica, which is what you just heard. It is also a Heart Songs for Veterans artist, donating money to help veterans. His current album, well, this isn't his current album. I know you have a new one out. This is just the last bio your agent gave me. His Letters from High Altitudes, a homage to his Ontario home. It's critically acclaimed vehicle for Ed's social, political, earthly, conscious, and global aware message. The earthly, funky, and magical mix of music has earned Ed Roman an airplay chart recognition and won over legions of fans around the world, known as Ed Heads. I love that. And I'm becoming an Ed Head because I have been listening to your music on YouTube all week. I love that song. I had to play the opening of Jamaica. When that was the first song I heard of yours, when your agent contacted me, and he gave me 2 songs, and I loaded up and hit it, and I'm like, oh man, it's totally down my alley. I love it. Let me get the share or the
Well, the intro music that you were playing earlier with the Hammond organ in it, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good show.
I wrote that.
He's got. Did you look? I was like, okay, Hammond in it. It's going to be right. It'll be good. It'll be right.
I wrote that in about 30 minutes on GarageBand.
I have an M upstairs with a Leslie, and there's a B3 that's coming in a donation to me in a little while. Plus, I have my Fender Rhodes in the studio too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have my cheap musical equipment anymore.
You know, it's funny though. I collect it because there's so many times in the past where people were like, "Well, I just don't want it anymore." They were throwing these things out, and I'm like, "Okay, I got to find a home for it." And I just had my friend Tobias here visiting from Germany, who incidentally played on the most recent record, and we were jamming with his 9-year-old son. He was playing drums. This kid. Tobias was playing a real Fender Rhodes, which was his. It's on continual donation. I'm the curator of these rare keyboards and things like that. And he said to me, like within 15 minutes of playing it, you know, I've got these great samples in the keyboards that I play in Germany, but the attack and the reality of the way you're touching the instrument and the way it responds is completely different. You know, so you know, come and jam.
Well, you know, the great thing about the internet, you now can jam with people on the internet.
Yeah.
The whole thing's set up for people to get together and jam on the internet. I think that's so awesome. You know, the technology. I get to do this show. You can have a online band. You know.
Hey, people are doing it for good causes. Look at stuff that Keith Richards did a little while ago, and I mean, there's some really amazing world-connected projects that are continually going. It's wonderful. Technology is really like an amazing thing, but I always got to remind myself that it's a tool. It's just a tool. It's not my life.
Yeah, but and you see people walking around. The new zombie apocalypse, as I like to call it, is, you know, people walking around like this with their phone, you know, looking where they're going or anything, and totally.
They're catching Pokemon.
They're catching Pokemon. Oh my God.
And we've still got Echo running, Jason, so something's still open.
Thank you. The button of Echo was down. Now it should go away.
Yep.
But yeah, so Ed, tell us a little bit about yourself. I read the bio you gave me, but you know, I love to hear it from my guests. You know, tell us who you are. You know, about your music and your the kind of person you are.
Well, you know, I'm a weirdo.
Me too.
I've always been one of those kids that was, I guess, considered a loner. You know, maybe in school, but I had so many friends, and I still have so many friends today. Kids even that I grew up with when I was 5. And with that said, I guess a lot of that came from the fact that I struggled a lot as a dyslexic with academics in school. And I grew up in a very rural community, isolated, if you will, you know, raising animals. We had Holsteins as well as blonde Aquitaines and 1,500 acres of property to look after. And we grew a lot of food. And at the same time, that sort of freedom that I had as a kid in that sort of Norman Rockwellian environment bred a lot of creativity, even in the little hamlet that we lived in called Victoria Square. And, you know, it was like endless nights of hide and go seek and capture the flag, and, you know, just days of running up and down the Bursey Creek, catching crayfish and camping out overnight. And with all that said, you know, it was a magical moment in my life. I look back now at 46 and go, wow, I was really lucky to have that kind of childhood. But I grew up in a family of 3 generations of people, and the oldest generation of which came from the old country.
Oh, where from?
Well, Slovakia.
Oh.
And my baba, she was if you would say, a very passionate woman about music, life, food, and loving people and connecting with people. She was an incredible conversationalist. And my house was a very busy place. My dad was the mayor of Markham, plus he was a cattleman, and he imported cattle. And he was also chairman and on the board of directors of Denison Mines, which was a uranium company that my uncle had owned. And with all that said, my house was always very busy because then I had my older brothers and sisters, plus my mom and dad. There always was like 30 or 40 people kicking around this farmhouse that we lived in for a multitude of reasons. Because I was the youngest, and at a very young age, my mom realized, hey, you know, we should put some kind of an instrument in this kid's hands because he keeps going to the piano in the front hall. She was amazing. My mom was amazing. When they wanted to put me on Ritalin, my mom said, And she stayed up with me night after night with these flashcards, practicing how to say words and reading with me. And, you know, for a dyslexic, you have to read things 3 or 4 times in order for you to fully comprehend all the information, because you struggle with the language. So this guitar that she gave me, that was from a secretary friend that she had, was missing a couple of strings, but that was my gateway, man, for being able to self-express myself. And because I was a bit of a ham and doing imitations, my family would take advantage of it when people would come to the house. Set this little stool up in the kitchen, and I had a broken lamp. I grabbed the guitar and sing like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, and it was like I kind of realized the potency of my activity, because there were all these adults paying attention to me, and they were clapping if I did something. Yeah, what every kid wants, without having to, like, you know, it was like fitting in because your family saw something. This was the other aspect of my dad that was really wonderful, is that even around the dinner table, because he was so politically active, first coalition candidate ever in the history of Canadian federal politics to actually run as an independent, and he won. He was always, you know, even after the discharge of political conversation at the table and even inside of discourse, would look at me at the age of 7 and go, "What do you think, boy?" You know, all of that was a very, you know, a propagating ground for a very free-thinking mind. So music to me gave me that, once again, that vehicle inside of that thought headspace to pursue music as not only a career, and it wasn't really, yeah, you know, you get the light in you as a young kid, and, you know, you want to play on stages and go on the road and do all that stuff. But as I started to really love and fall in love with music in a different way, even on a philosophical level, I started to realize that it had multitudes of extensions into my life and who I was as a person. So with that said, it's not just the clothes that I wear or where I play certain gigs. The philosophies that music carry, in other words, conceptually, there should be no boundaries in terms of what music is. It shouldn't always be categorized.
Right. Oh, God, I so agree with that.
These create prejudices, and as a result of it, you know, and it took me a long time to understand that. Even so, more so, the aspect of the songwriting process, and you must understand this yourself, that there's this humbling aspect to the original spark of what inspires you. But as you start to hopefully listen to that spark, the information starts to pull you through it. And it becomes a very, as I say, humbling experience in that light of discovery in terms of what's being said to you. And I guess that's where my love in terms of the paranormal aspect and that concepts inside of musical philosophy sort of come together, because I've had writing experiences and things that have occurred to me in my life where they're hard for me to discount as circumstance or coincidence. Because, you know, if you talk to a police officer and, you know, you say, well, if you have 2 circumstances that are coincidental, what is that? And they'll say that's a lead. But if you say something in your life about something that goes on, and people will say, well, that's just a coincidence. But there's 4 or 5 factors that occur that you're looking at that aren't necessarily coming in from some, as I say before, anthropomorphized psychological aspect because of trauma or something else that makes you see something in a different light, in a different way. And it's maybe because you step outside of your normal boundary of feeling and thinking on that sort of, like, you know, subtle energy level to be able to perceive and notice things. You know, Robert Hunter, Jerry Garcia popularized the tune. It's like, once in a while you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. And that's the way sometimes music comes to me, and that's why it's more like a lifelong spiritual quest in terms of, like, what I'm trying to say is not just only about myself, but it's a reflection of who we are as people, and what I do in this life, the things that are around me. Herbie Hancock once said the definition of an artist is one who has the ability to fuse their life with the rhythm of the times. And with that said, that's what I'm trying. It's unbelievable, and I've said it to other people before. And they're like, "Can I use?" And I'm like, "It's Herbie's, man. I you know." but that's it. That's where music then becomes that spiritual aspect, because it's more than just playing a tune and going for paces. It's allowing what that energy is of that song to once again take hold of you and characterized in how you behave even on stage. It's all part of it. So I guess that's a big part of who I am, why I say I'm a bit of a freak, because the way I perceive things is sort of outside of the box, and maybe through necessity, because as I said, as a dyslexic, you're kind of forced to do that, look at things a little bit differently. And then that love for the paranormal again comes from my grandmother. Like I bet. I have stories and allegory in my family that are like book worthy. That like my grandmother had a brother that was born with all of his hair and teeth and could already speak.
Oh wow! I've heard. See, these are the legends from that kind of area you hear about. Like they always said that you're talking about vampires. They always said those are ones that could become vampires. I remember the mythology.
Stragoi, right? Yeah, right. But see, the thing is that he was like a very peaceful child, but at like the age of 4, he started telling my great grandmother the exact day that he was gonna die.
Oh wow!
How he was gonna die, and it wasn't a violent thing. He said, "I'm gonna go underneath the apple tree," total like old country, right? And his name was Ergi. There's a little bench made of wood there that my great grandfather had made. He goes, "I'm gonna go lie down on that bench and I'm just gonna die." And my great grandmother would say, "Ergi, don't say those things. It's terrible." And a couple of the sort of wise women of the village, and they would say things like, he's special, there's something with Ergi,
Well, he was born with hair.
I mean, look, okay, that's enough as it is. Usually when I pose that as the entry to that story, people like stop and go, "What?" But you've heard of those kinds of, right. So he would then start practicing his own funeral. And lo and behold, on the exact day that he said, at the age of 11, goes to the apple tree, lies down on the bench, and dies. Now, this was a story I heard from the time, like I can remember, of having cognitive memory.
And these stories scar you for life. They totally
scar you, or get you wondering a little bit more about
reality.
What reality could actually be, and I mean, even on a physics level, we know dimensionally there are far more universal aspects to the levels of our existence than just the 3 that we combine with. So who knows? And for me, that's a lot of where like I get my, like I said, weirdness from.
Oh, last week's guest, Tracy Sue, she's a business and life spiritual coach. And one of the things she said that she really hit home with me last week, and I think what I'm going to tell you what she said is going to really hit home for you as a musician. Her feeling is that we are channeling the muses, the spirits, when we're writing a story or writing a song. And I always felt that way because I would write songs. I don't know about you, but I'd have a song come out of me in 2 minutes, and with lyrics I have just coming out of me. And they wouldn't make any sense to me at the time, and they'd almost be prophetic, to something later. Have you ever had that experience? I've been wanting to ask another musician, another songwriter this after listening to her, and I'm like, yeah, I've always thought that deep down I've had that experience. So for you, do you feel it's something like that, like a channeling?
Yeah, absolutely, and sometimes even hard for me to talk about because I think with people, and this is why this is a wonderful show to discuss it on, they find it kind of hard to understand. So I kind of keep it under cuff, but I know it's a personal, let's say, arsenal of how I get into what you just call that channeling of information. Because, look, if you got an idea now, you might be like, and then all of a sudden you go to your Hammond, and then you start paying attention. That's what I was getting at before, that listening aspect. Like it's there already. Like the great artists would say, it's already been in the stone, I've just released it. And it's not like an egotistical thing. It's just what I think a lot of people don't understand, which is like really paying hyper awareness to the surroundings of what's occurring. I have this experience even with when I play jazz, when I'm doing trio stuff with people, or even duo stuff, or even by myself. But it's more because of the interaction between 3 or 2 people.
That's how jazz is, though.
That's it. And when you realize that, okay, even if it's a simple gig and you're a cocktail, and you're playing from 2 to 6, there's some stuff that goes on, And it's because of the listening that occurs that this magic in this unexplainable way that maybe sometimes only the musicians on the gig that are looking at each other feel and understand.
Oh, I know that.
The audience knows it. They know it because they might clap. They do what they're doing. You get the note at the end of the night. People come up, great music, da-da-da-da. But so often we're like, okay, push stop. It was somebody recording it. Like, it's gone to the trade winds.
Right.
But it's because, you know what I'm getting at, right? Like, it's never again. It's gone, right? But we realize that it's through that channeling of that new thing happens, that cross-referencing, that organic feel and approach to what the music really needs to be. And that's why, for me too, jazz has that life lesson in it when you study it, that it helped me even more as a younger kid, obviously become a better musician. But on a compositional level, it changed me because I saw how much freer it could make my own music.
Oh yeah, you talk about it. It's like in Stone River. I'm also into writing, and Stephen King kind of you can tell he felt the same way. About that what we're talking about. That it's almost like channeling. Like he talks about writing fast, get it out of there. But he also described it as like you're not creating something, you're digging out a fossil. It's like you're the paleontologist and you're digging up the fossil with your delicate brushes. You don't want to take a jackhammer to the story kind of deal. But it's a similar idea to the music. It's like it's something that's already there, and it's like you're unearthing it. And like it's like it's coming from the ether or from the muses or something like that. That's what we talked about last week, and I thought it would be interesting bringing it up to a musician because I thought about it a lot. I'm like, because I've been out of music for a while. Last song I wrote was that intro song.
It's great though, dude. It's awesome too, man. Yeah.
But I want to get back to that. It's like I lost that touch with that channeling or that muse, and a lot of it's being a father and having a noisy household. But it's interesting to hear you kind of confirm what we were talking about last week from another musician. You talk about being on stage and that look you have. It's almost like you're almost have this telepathy going on. That like you can feel like where even though you're not speaking to each other, you can feel where they're going to go. And I've done that with people who've never played music before. You had a good rapport with them suddenly. You're just both going in this direction. You're not talking about it. It's just happened. It's telepathy, in my opinion. Music has its own paranormal sense to it. I've always thought that there's something. When you get in this like kind of jam session, you don't get it when you're playing in a cover band as much.
No, don't you think it's interesting too that on the opposite swing of those metal balls, that the aspect of the fact that so many musicians that probably we both know, and the fact that I'm even on this show are into those kinds of things, and those spiritual aspects, things or quests or meditative aspects to life, that they find a sort of a higher form of feeling or life existence. It doesn't mean that they're better or greater than anybody else.
But they've tasted it. That's what I think.
You taste it, right? And I guess that's what a part of it too, and why musicians and artisans in general are sort of a special breed, is because we're sort of wired to feel and see those things on those levels, and maybe more so, and you've understood this before, where that level of empathy maybe is sort of misunderstood by some people, and it has nothing to do with being weak or being over emotional about certain things. It means that you're more connected to what those aspects of who you are really are. I was on a jury for 4.5 months, sequestered for this crazy issue, and I remember at the end of it they hung us, the jury, and it was the third jury that they had hung, and at the end of it I just lost it because people were like getting racial and they're yelling at each other in the deliberation room, and I just left for a minute because I got to get some air, and I'm crying to myself in the hallway, and the judge comes up to me. She's this hip lady, man. She's part Micmac, part Hungarian, and she says to me, she goes, "You know what? I'm glad you cried in front of them." I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "It shows your humanity." And she walked away. She gave me a little hug and she walked away. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that just happened.
It means you're taking it seriously, too.
Well, that's it. And I guess that's what it is about our field and what we do, is that we're always trying to pay a hyper awareness to our surroundings. And we feel that. We feel that.
Oh yeah, I you know, when you get talking about the paranormal, so you know, you're talking about the stories your grandmother said. Now, in your life, have you experienced some of this? Because I always feel like some of these things attract you, especially when you have that kind of that background in your ancestry, that you've had some experiences when it comes to the paranormal because of it.
More than one, I would have to say, and as you so eloquently put, I think families themselves discharge this kind of energy. You know, I've heard physical mediums before say that people, you know, especially with younger kids and children, they're like lights. Certain spirits, and sometimes not all that good, gravitate themselves to those kinds of, and they form attachments with individuals. And I've seen some incredible things that are really hard to discount. But everything from UFO stuff to Bigfoot experiences to, you know, definitely spirit visitation from family, lost friends, and multiple levels of connections. One of which, more recently, in the last 8 years, and it's hard to believe already, was the passing of my friend Bain Arnold, and tragic circumstances where, you know, he had passed away because of a food allergy and a 4.5-month-old baby boy, and they just got married not too long ago, and it was just crazy stuff. But after the funeral, and a number of events occurred, but I get like home to my house, and there's this thing, I should have brought it out, and I was going to do it, and that's my precognitive thing because we're talking about this story, but it's like a kid's 70s toy that you would have got a booklet for and a color-coded bunch of numbers, and you could kind of play diatonic scales, and it was probably put out with Merlin and Speak and Spell and that sort of era of electronic toys, right? This thing doesn't play rhythmical things, but it started playing these rhythms, these polyrhythms and things like this, like and I said to my wife Kim, I said, this is crazy. Like, this doesn't do this. And I touch it just to make sure it wasn't stuck or something. And so I got the idea. I'm just going to start asking it questions. And I'm like, hey, Bane, is that you? And it'd be like, oh wow. And I'd be like, is this really happening? Like, to every question, and like responsive to the question, you know, in regard to the immediate rhythmical response. And I would pause and I would wait. The other aspect to that was just the week after that happened, we had this post party, which was at this little pub. And I go outside, and there's these 3 kids that are walking down the street. And they say, we got to break into a junkyard. We've got to figure out how to steal a door. You know, we can't let his parents know that we actually, we messed up the car. And here I am listening to them say this. There are 3 of them walking by. And I said, wait a minute, can I stop and talk to you just for a second? You don't know me from Adam, but I said, when I was about your age, my friends and I wrecked our friend's car on the side of their barn. We ended up going to a junkyard, finding a door, driving it home on our bicycles, reinstalling it into the car, and their parents were never the wiser. And I said, it's sort of unbelievable that you're walking by right here, because one of my friends had just passed away that was part of that incident. I said, I'd love you to come inside and tell the story to the people that are upstairs. And there's about 40 people that are sort of lingering. Well, as I bring these kids upstairs, I walk into the room, and it's kind of quiet. And I said, hey, everybody, I want to introduce you to these 3 kids. It's a crazy story. And I go into the whole thing, and I tell them, and the whole place goes white, like everybody's quiet. And a buddy of mine, and I said, what's wrong? And I said, a buddy of mine pops up and says, we were just telling that story yet.
Wow.
So for me, at that moment, to go to the street, to see those 3 kids telling the exact story, for me to stop them, say, come inside, walk up a set of stairs, no knowledge to anybody upstairs that this is occurring, and they're telling the same story, far exceeds any level of coincidence. And to me, it was like Boehner, my buddy Bane, going, hey, buddy, I'm here, man.
It sounded like he was trying to communicate to you with music, you know, using that toy.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I think it was. And you know, it's funny because, you know, people might be well, that was just like some sort of radio interference or something. But out of all the times after the funeral and I get home, and the other thing about, so we started calling it the Bane phone. Another one of our good close buddies from that neighborhood from Victoria Square gets married. We have a friend of ours come stay at our house, look after the dog and everything. And lo and behold, the night of the wedding, the thing hasn't made a sound in a year and a half. It starts going.
Oh, that's
the night of the wedding. Our friend texts us and says the Bane phone is going off. Just so you know, he's happy Chris is getting married. And I'm like, okay. Again, this thing is doing this, you know, like. So that's just like one of the aspects in the most recent part of my life that have kind of been going on. But as I said, there's so many other things. The UFO experience that my whole family had back in the 60s. Well, I mean, it was like, because again, like I said at the beginning of the show, it was a beautiful farmhouse on the edge of a creek line. And
what was the name of the town?
It was called Victoria Square. It was north of Toronto by about 22 kilometers, 15 miles, that kind of a thing. But my mom was making dinner one night, and the old farmhouse had a sump pump in the basement. And then the pipes started rattling. My mom thought, oh, there's something wrong with the sump pump. Must have turned on. Something's going on. So she goes down to the basement, and it's not on. And she walks back up to the top of the stairs that open to this big bay window into the kitchen where about 8 of us are all sitting around the kitchen table. And she thought, all of a sudden, she sees this light out of the window and thought it was a plane, like a small Cessna, that was going to crash into our house because we only lived about 4 or 5 miles from the Buttonville Airport, which had small Cessnas flying in and out of it all the time. And she realized it wasn't moving. And she said, stop and look out the window. To everybody, and everybody stopped and we looked, and out the window was this oblong-shaped ball that was so bright that it was like an arc light. Like you couldn't look at it. It almost like you had that feeling like I should keep looking away. Now, when you kept doing that, we realized that the light is so bright, but it's not actually casting any shadow because it's around November. No, it was around November, so the sun sets at about 5 o'clock, 4:45 kind of a thing, and supper's at like 6 o'clock on the farm. So this is happening about 6:30 kind of a thing, and so you start to kind of think, well, you can't look at it, but so the trees that are there and the posts and everything else that you would see normally coming from the old lamppost light that's there, that's lit, cast those shadows, no different than the candles are casting shadows and things here. So, and then all of a sudden, as it lifts up, like it's floating, and then it starts to go over top of our barn. And the barn is basically set about, 50 feet, 60 feet from where the house is. There's a chicken coop next to the barn, and it goes over the barn, but you can still see it because it's just at the crest of the barn. And it starts to, kind of like a bouncing ball, follow the topography of the land that goes down to a sloping valley down to the Bursey Creek in the back pasture of our farm. And we lose sight of it after about 4.5, 5 minutes. And the next day, my mom calls the Buttonville Airport because she knows a bunch of people there. And sure enough, she found out that they had also reported in a bunch of the local newspapers, as well as the David Dunlop Observatory, that they had tracked a bunch of unidentified flying aircraft in the air that night. Now, you got to remember, on average, in the late 60s and 70s, there were reports coming in from Buffalo News, like Irv Weinstein, and about different things that were going on continually. They were regular reports, and I remember as kids and stuff like that all running to the big Zenith TV to like check out like the news of what's going on, right? and so for us, it was another one of those things that, like, why do these things keep happening, in our family? Like, are they tracking us? Are they following us? Are they following the creek line? Why did it happen to us, right?
That's really quick. A lot of UFO reports are reported near waterways and rivers and creeks for some reason. I don't know, but I've heard that mentioned before.
Subtle energy electrical sources. I mean, any flowing water is an electrical source. And there is a large geological deposit of granite and limestone in those areas, which are hyperactive as far as a molecular electric energy is concerned. So regardless, it was one of those things that, and then later I remember my sister-in-law and I were coming home. This was many years later from the farm that was down the road because my brother was living there. And on our way home, I noticed a red light. And it was funny. You were showing that other orb that people were discounting. I can't remember if it was Todd that was saying he was calling
the one over the field
on that one or whatever. Yeah, because it could be plasma, it could be the apex aperture, like he was saying. Quite possible. I've seen things that are like that go triangulated, and then people say they're triangulated craft, and they're not actually triangulated craft. This red orb had caught my attention coming in the driveway because it was a long farm driveway, and there was a tree line, like a pine tree line along the edge of the roadway, and I said to my sister-in-law, "Stop the car," and she kind of didn't want to stop, and I said, I kind of, she slowed down because she was looking at it, and she slowed down enough for me to open the door and get out. She started going, "Edward, get in here, get in here," and I got to the edge of the tree line, and the orb itself was like, typical. You hold your hand out, try to look at your fingernail, on your index finger, and it seemed to be like trying to proximity-wise give you that distance. So I don't know. Two fields that were basically 50 acres, so maybe 100 acres of space between me and the actual light itself. But what it was doing was, and why it caught my attention, first it seemed big and red, and it was vibrating almost like a visual of like when you're looking at it, and if you see an LED screen or something at a distance, you can see that wiggle in it. And I thought that's really odd, like it's an electrical disturbance. And then all in a second, it just would go and shoot down really quickly on like a 45-degree angle, then slowly move up, and then start moving to the west. And then it would go up a little bit, then shoot back, but a little slower, and then would go up again, and then it was kind of like looking for something in the airspace or something, and would try to find it. And we watched it for about a half. My sister-in-law wouldn't come out of the car, and at the same time, it's like you're watching it 5 minutes of this, and I don't know what the total length of time for let's say ball lightning or plasma discharge in certain areas, but for 5 minutes of continual sort of light phenomenon to occur. And the other thing that was weird about it too, Jason, is that the center of the sphere seemed to be white, and it almost swirled outwards towards the actual red of the ball. So it was like a swirl of water, white to red, going up to the outside edges of the actual ball itself. And I gotta tell you, it's like, as fascinated as I am by all of these topics, it was one of the more times, other than being, nylon spaced between me and a black bear in a tent in northern Ontario, the times I was most afraid and excited in my life.
Right.
Because when you're seeing something that you totally don't understand, your first interpretation is to stare and look at it because you're trying to figure out what it is. But when your mind goes through all those possibilities, you then end up with this, like, I'm a little worried here. Because, like, what could happen? It's the same thing with the bear. Hey, there's a bear outside the tent, honey. What could happen here?
Bear, I would be very, very afraid, not excited. But the UFO, I get what you're saying. I'd be excited and afraid. Afraid about it being butt probed is my main thing.
Well, you know what I mean. It's just like,
I've seen Fire in the Sky, man.
Yeah, or being part of the food chain and not up by a bear. But again, it's one of those things that in my life I feel like, looking back at all the things, even like the big hairy Bigfoot thing that I think I saw not too long ago, either just in the forest actually back here.
And you're a lucky man. UFO, a ghost experience and a Bigfoot experience. I can't count I've had a UFO and ghost, but I don't live in an area with Bigfoot too much.
If you go to my YouTube channel, you scan down because it's way down there because I posted it many years ago and I don't talk about it often. You'll see something that's called Sasquatch Ontario that I put together. And it's just a story, very simple story. It's not shot very well, but you'll get the whole sort of depiction of what actually occurred. But I spent some time, and because my father, when he first came here to Canada, grew up on Scugog Island next to the Scugog Island Indian Reserve. I spent a lot of time with Indian cultures, and lucky enough, Ojibwe, Cree, Inuit, they are very attuned to what this concept of Sasquatch, Yeti, whatever you want to call a Bigfoot, is. And more recently, a Micmac gentleman I know once told me, he said, look, you don't go finding Bigfoot. They find you. They find you for a reason.
I've heard that too.
And there's a reason that in some ways you were meant to see that experience. Like you just said, you're lucky to have. I feel that way. But to tell you the truth, again, I don't know why. I'm going to just tell you quick, but it was like going to my garden, 6:30, July the 6th of almost 2 years ago now, I believe. And coyotes going crazy in the middle of the day, like early evening. Many of them at the corner of the forest line. Go to the top of the hill, put my dog in the house first because coincidentally he'd been chased out of the forest by some coyotes like months earlier, so I didn't want there to be any something going on. Get to the crest of the hill where it starts to rise down on the slope on my pasture in the back, goes down to the forest. And I see this figure, which my first instinct was, why is there a man wearing a black jumpsuit or a skidoo suit, like I thought, and wearing a balaclava, staring at the forest, which is coincidentally where the coyotes aren't coming out of, and all going yip, 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 and yipping, right? And howling. Within less than 30 seconds, as I'm standing there, and I'm kind of like at this level of my waist, so if whatever is down there is looking at me, they would only see me from here, but I'm also upwind of it. Right. So I see it then crouched down in the grass, and I'm like, why is this man or person doing this? It then comes instantaneously bounding like a quadruped, like some kind of big hairy jackrabbited man, or like those mountain gorilla videos that you've seen when they come out of the bush line and you can almost see that musculature of the hair and everything under them undulating when they take those steps towards whoever it is that's shooting video. In 4 bounds had to have covered at least 40 yards, an incredible amount of space, on 4 legs, stopped instantaneously, stood up on 2 legs, turned to its left, and then sauntered across 50 acres into the next bush line. Now, at this point, I was in a genuflecting pose after seeing what it was doing, because at first I thought, is this a bear?
Right, that's what I would think. It's a bear.
And I actually, Jason, I started to turn to leave, and I'm looking over my left shoulder when I notice it stops to stand up. So I'm looking at it, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, and I know a lot of hunters. I know a lot of people that spend a lot of time in the bush. I've been camping a lot. I've been to a lot of provincial parks. I've been out camping in places that people don't normally go. Most of the hunting guys that I know, even if they've been out hunting moose, deer, it doesn't matter what it is, they've never come across a black bear. They've never come across a brown bear. And if they have, I've said to people before, have you ever seen a brown bear do this? No. Right. Have you ever seen a black bear do this? No. And for that duration of time. And I'm talking like a saunter. Like, it's not like some sort of like a bipedal thing that is now like using its inertia to go forward and then it's going to fall again. It was just like walk, walk, walk. Like, it kind of stopped, noticed I was there, and then wanted to pay no mind to me and just sort of took its time getting across the acreage. So, and now looking back, and if you see the video, the little clip, my wife and I went down there to where it was standing near this little cedar tree. And it's a little seated cedar, but standing next to it, it was at least 1.5 feet taller than whatever that little cedar tree is. And that cedar tree is about 6.5 feet tall.
Oh my God, that's huge.
So it's huge. It was really big. And then it was really crazy because I started doing a bunch of research through the BFRO and a bunch of other researchers that I know that are sort of like out there, Todd Prescott, and I contacted John Bindernagel and a bunch of other people to ask them questions. And they sent me a couple reports that happened not too long before mine about an identical sort of sighting, which were people leaving just on a side road south of where I was, and coming up on an open field line, like I have, thinking they were going to come up and side cut a deer, realizing in the twilight of the evening that it wasn't a deer, and what they described was a man-sized running jackrabbit on all fours. Now, the BFR, I reported, they come up here, we go back in the bush. The other aspect is this, they think this is funny, but it's like, it took me almost 3.5 or 4 months to go back there by myself.
Oh, yeah.
We go back there with the dog all the time, and there's this like little corridor road that you can walk, and it's really cool and everything, right? But they thought it was kind of cute that I was scared and I didn't want to go back there. But they said that basically this area, and you were showing that other clip, the other Bigfoot thing, and he showed a little photo of the Whitehall incident, which was the video of the guy, and he was like, something's eating my apples out of my tree. It ate all the leaves and the apples at the same time. This area is big orchard country. And he said since the late 1920s, there have been strange reports of simian-like sounds, hairy-looking things walking across roadways in the middle of the night, all up in this area up through the Niagara Escarpment and the Bruce Trail. So, what did I see? I don't know. I called it Sasquatch Ontario because that's my interpretation of it. But it took me a long time to reason with myself as to what it was exactly that I saw, and how do I explain this to people? How do I, and out of everybody that I sort of know.
Most people just keep quiet about it.
That makes a lot more sense than a lot of reports you hear if there's actually food sources and stuff around.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the same thing. They were saying habitually they may be here and or using it as a migratory area, because eventually, if you really wanted to, you could work your way into the Adirondacks, upper New York State, all the way down into like practically Florida if you really wanted to, and then work your way north again. I mean, even on the mountain ranges on the western coast, there's so many Aboriginal communities that are named after these kinds of sightings that you can almost follow them like a map line along the mountain range. And they're based on those areas where the Aboriginal culture saw or experienced or interacted with those types of things. So, and I mean, people would say, well, show me the skeleton, show me the animal, show me the...
We've talked about that on this show a billion times now.
And there's people, shows out there, go hunting, killing Bigfoot, finding Bigfoot.
Monster Quest.
I think some of the best research are being done by field researchers like John Bindernagle or Jeff Meldrum, or M.K. Davis is doing some wonderful work and videographic work on really trying to isolate and look at certain incidents that have been going on. There are all kinds of creatures, insects, amphibians, mammals being discovered on this planet on a regular basis. So, I mean, the 21st century is a really strange and interesting technological place. Sometimes I think about living in the bush myself.
But there's still magic that we don't, there's still that realm. Like, we get all this technology, but there's still these stories, your instances like you had just 2 years ago, that defy our technology, defy our logic of what we thought was reality. One of the things I wanted to say about what you told me, what you saw, reminds me of some of my the instances more similar to Dogman than Bigfoot. Seems similar to that, some of the instances people have had with Dogman, especially when you talk about it running on all fours.
And are they that tall?
Yeah, they're tall, big creatures. It's very similar to Bigfoot in a way, except that it's more dog-like. But it can walk. It's a body. It's like the werewolf. It's the classic kind of werewolf kind of deal. It's got the human stature and all that, So when you see it running on all fours, it kind of remind me of that. Same time, a lot of Bigfoot reports too, the sound of coyotes is very common before a Bigfoot sighting. So
they seem to be disturbed by it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's
and then packed together as a result.
So what's your thoughts on this? Now, on the Bigfoot, you get into this, having this experience got you into the whole Bigfoot community, basically. Got you interested in it. I'm sure you might have, being weird like me, you probably had an interest in it already, but seeing it, I'm a weirdo. When you say weirdo, I'm part of that club.
Patterson Gimlin film. I mean, I grew up in that era.
Oh, yeah. But there's two different fronts in the Bigfoot community. It's a cryptoid, real creature. It's out there, and we haven't discovered it yet. And then there's the paranormal side to it, that they're interdimensional walk-ins. And I gotta admit, I'm a big parallel universe kind of guy, and I love the idea of walk-ins and creatures that walk into our reality for a period of time. And I've always thought, you just said, where's the body, where's the bones, that people come up with this. It's always been one of those explanations, like, for it, a possibility, reason why we don't find the bodies, that these are temporary walk-ins from another dimension.
Well, old boy, if we could speculate for just a moment. I think the Indian cultures would sympathize with that statement because they tell a story that at one time there were the little people, them, and the big people, and something happened to the little people. They got kind of like not erased, but they weren't well. The middle people, the Aboriginal cultures, still associated with the big cultures. But when supposedly, again, white men came and they started obtaining things, losing their connection with their living environment, they were very specifically told by the big people that if you do that, you're not allowed to participate in what we are anymore. And they will say that they have that ability to move between nature and what we see, and an altered reality. And in a way, I kind of believe that, because even through my own spiritual experiences of things that have happened, like, okay, when I bought this farmhouse where we live, this whole place, built in 1866, my dad, he's old. My dad passed away when I was 20. And I got to tell you, you got to understand, having kids, man, I wish my dad was around today to see some of the things that I've been able to achieve in my life and share in some wonderful conversation and philosophy, if you will.
Right.
So what happens with me when I move into my home? I'm talking to one of my oldest friends who's in Europe, who I was telling you about earlier, and all of a sudden, an overwhelming odor of my father, from his aftershave to his BO to the smell of his pants when he came in from the barn, all impregnated my kitchen in a way that was this ambrosiatic moment that basically spellbound me to the point of tears. And Tobias said to me, he says, "What's wrong?" I said, "My dad's here." Now, it took me almost 10 years to figure this out. But my dad had an incredible sense of smell. He was knighted in France, in Burgundy, for his wine tasting abilities, and he could tell you anything about what was growing in the area and what the vineyard itself would even seep into itself through its aromatic exchange. That's how clever his palate was. How does he choose to tell me he loves me and he's happy? He shows up in an aromatic way that triggers every aspect of my earliest thoughts of who he is. So for me, it's again at how is it perceiving you, and how are you looking at it and feeling it? And that's the same thing with those aspects to that community, or those things that we don't understand anymore. They slip in and out of these frameworks that we don't understand because we're so separate. This is one of the things for me as a person living in the 21st century. I find technology incredible, but at the same time, we're losing so many aspects of who we are on a subtle level, and even how we communicate, the art of conversation, the art of using words and language.
Right.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so for me, how could it not then, maybe in some way, as I said, if we could just philosophize for a moment, old boy, that could be a possibility. That could be a realm of I mean, I love to watch Amy Allen. I don't know if you know Amy Allen.
Oh yeah.
She's in Steve DeShaw. They do the show together, and it's really interesting the way they present the information. I mean, she's seen things that she could actually describe as like Bigfoot-like things. And you know, it's not anything out of the ordinary for her.
Yeah, and she's very descriptive. They have the detective that goes and does his side of the investigation, and she does hers separately from, which is why I always loved that show.
Yeah.
But just like she's being able to see in another realm. I had an experience recently, and my dad, who is, I want to say, agnostic to almost atheist. He's very scientific and analytical. I approached him about something I saw the night I saw it. I was on an investigation, and I saw, I'd asked a question. I was at a Catholic church. I go, I'm agnostic. I'm not Catholic. Can you show me a sign that the afterlife is real? And I was right in front of me was a statue of St. Anthony holding the baby Jesus, and I saw its fingers go like that. And it stopped me in my tracks. And my dad, I told my dad, I know there's no way those fingers really could have moved. They're stone. There's no way they were moving. But somehow in my mind, it had to have projected that image. My dad goes, well, you never know what you're seeing because our brain's only showing us 50% of what's around us, not even 50% of what's around us. It's translating all this information into an image in your mind. So anything could be manipulated in your mind. So it could be paranormal. You're right. It probably didn't move those stone fingers, but it was able to manipulate what the translated information to make me see that. So it's like you could be seeing a Bigfoot there, you could be perceiving another reality, but is it really there? Is it just two realities merging? Or is it just like a movie? It just jumps through a portal and comes walking into the field and you see it. I don't know. There's so many unanswered questions to this. And
I guess that's it. For me, with that experience alone, it's my first recognition of the auditory problem. Why are the coyotes making noise at 6:30? That's more of an evening activity because they're night hunters.
Right.
And I've heard that when they're fighting with a raccoon or something out in the bush, it's like, violent. It's just crazy stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
But this was like daylight in July, and for them to all be huddled in that one corner, refusing to come out of the bush. And so that's the secondary aspect, is the visual. There's my other sense kicking in, auditory, then visual. Then fight or flight kicks in because you don't know what you're seeing, and it's charging towards you.
I would have been running. I'm telling you that right now.
Well, that's what I meant. As I said, in this genuflecting like pose, thinking I got to get out of here because I could be like, this could be a bear, and then realizing, wait a minute, this is not a bear. Like this is like a big person or something. Like that's and your dad's right. I mean, there's so many things that we don't see or understand about our experience, or maybe even like with the writing experience, subtly moving you towards thinking processes. I mean, we're also geared towards, our own experiences and the things that happen. But I guess it's how we define it, for ourselves as well as others that make it valid. Storytelling is one of the most incredible things. It's the oldest art form that we have, and as a result, some of those things have made their way, obviously, in a myth and legend and book. And when some have taken the time to actually discern whether or not they are, we find out in some cases they are. Look at Heinrich Schliemann. I mean, he figured out that the ancient city of Troy actually did exist.
Yeah, and everybody thought it was a myth.
Thought it was a myth.
Stories.
Right. So I think there's something to be said about, trying to at least pay attention and look more into it as opposed to just right away discounting it.
I want to mention the audience. I have opened the Skype line up. If you do want to call in to join the conversation, it's gone many different angles in the paranormal. If you want to add your 2 cents to it, or if you got a question for Ed, call on in. The Skype ID is oojblandoo. You call in, and I won't hear you at first if we're in the middle of a conversation. Just give me a second to stop. I know you've called. I will turn you on, and when you hear me call on you, you can start talking. All right, so remember, Skype ID, oojblandoo. One thing, Ed, too, I was going to say, you've had these, these experiences in that, and obviously it took you, the latest one you had, 2 years ago with the Bigfoot thing, took you in a direction of kind of, you wanting to find out more about the Bigfoot. Is there anything else in this field of weirdness that is kind of captured your imagination, or an experience of taking you like that, like you did with the Bigfoot?
Well, I mean, I'm just fascinated by the realm of our own existence as a result of these kinds of experiences, because, they say history is written by the victors, and not always in history are the victors the ones in the right.
Right.
And I guess that's where my inquiry and interest and studying of crypto, political, sociological, anthropological aspects of to who we are sort of happen. When fascinating things occur, sometimes they seem to be hard to believe. And as a result, sometimes the things that are hard to believe are sometimes created. So, and because I come from such a political background, I'm always interested in prognostication and or how things are going to turn out. Most recently in social media, and I don't want to go overly political here, but for almost a year now, I've been paying attention to the proverbial political track in the United States, as I do in my own country. But
I wish I could ignore it, but
wait,
it's pretty hard.
Canada has politics?
But my prediction, and it's not really a prediction, it's more of following a trail, is that regardless, Clinton will end up becoming the president of the United States. And it's not even a prediction because, as I say, I follow trails. And that's what even all of this kind of information and searching, even the hidden things that are in our own existence, whether it's the Bigfoot experiences, the UFO experiences, the ghost-like experiences, it has to do with the change that occurs when these things happen. As you so eloquently put, these things in my life that happened to me changed me. They made me a different person, and they changed my thinking pattern about how I kind of perceive the world. And some people might say, "Well, that's crazy. You know, you're not thinking clearly, or you're dreaming, or you're seeing things, or all of those things that question somebody's mental health, or any of those kinds of things." The reality of it is that I'm so analytical about my experiences that it's not just something for me, and they are my own experiences. That is something like it's just a story I like to tell at a campfire. And because of that, and where I was going with that is, so I'm always looking at the sociological changes that occur around us and how we react to them. Because again, I see people reacting negatively. And I'm always trying to, and especially as of late with my music, really trying to push the positivity button, love button, the drop your guns and pick up your arms, hug somebody. All of these kinds of aspects to who we are as people that are not healthy for us. I guess that aspect of my life in the paranormal has really fueled me as a human to try to strive for something better in my life, as weird as it sounds. So I guess maybe that's where that Aboriginal statement that came to me, which was like, you're meant to see this kind of thing right now, is a part of my own allegory. It's a part of my own existence, a part of the thing that fuels me. And again, as you said, I feel lucky that these kinds of things have happened to me, because they make, if not weird, they make life really exciting.
Well, go ahead, Todd.
Go ahead. Go.
I said I had a question from the chat room. Somebody was wondering if you've had any other deja vu experiences.
I have them all the time.
Yeah, I can say that was probably gonna be the answer, because I know I have.
And it's weird because it's like, and even there's people laughed at me because I feel like I can continue the deja vu in a weird way, where it's like, I knew that was just going to happen. And by the way, if you ask me about Pat Ottaway's kids, I'm going to freak out right now. And everybody starts laughing because that was part of the deja vu that I'm still remembering. That's not connected to the moment. And I'm always getting those kinds of things.
Yeah, I have too. I'd like to, go ahead, Todd. What were you going to say?
The thing is, that's not really surprising, other than on the creative level. I mean, you're into music. You live in an area that's kind of that more. I guess the native culture is up there, and just 100 years ago, that's how our stories were passed. It was through the music around the campfire. That's how information was relayed in the folk stories and songs. Oh, yeah. So you're right there in it. So it's not real surprising that you'd be attuned to it.
Big Todd.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to play. Actually, you went down to, and I lost your camera. Are you still there, Ed?
I'm here. I'm just going to go over to my electrical source because I'm running out of battery power.
Oh, no. Go take care. While you're doing that, go ahead and take your time, Ed. I want people to know you went to Jamaica for humanitarian aid, and you shot a music video there from the song I played just a little bit of. I'd like to play that music video because I really like that song. So while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and play that, everybody. The song is called Jamaica. I just like the first song I heard of his, and I really, really like this song. So I'm going to go ahead and get that up. And he has, like I said, he's got a music video for it.
Somebody's getting texts and everything.
Not me.
That was charging.
It's all right, no problem. You might get a little echo because I have to hit the button echo to play it off of here off the music video.
Thank you, Papa. I bless. I learned him to, you know, because if you hold it stiff, you will burst it. So you say, okay, I'm not fighting you so much. Take length. Isn't simple anymore. You get a big one, you know? There you go. Not South again.
Nice, man.
When you realize, well, I make more friends than alibis. I share my food and talk the talk, and I wipe your tears and walk the walk. In Jamaica, in Jamaica. In Jamaica, in Jamaica. Speeding, riding, eating, beating, tear. Strap up, strap up, strap up, strap up. Well, driving in Jamaica, you can drive it anywhere. Drink a red stripe and watch your Bible. I found a sacred melody inside a hidden rift. I tasted not Babylon, tasted not Babylon. The home of Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Jimmy Cliff. Hold your hands and wave them high. Feel the pulse and watch it fly. Well, you know you're home when you hear that sigh. Well, a jewel in the ocean is where it lies. In Jamaica, in Jamaica. Well, in Jamaica, in Jamaica. In Jamaica, in Jamaica, in Jamaica.
Everything is Irie.
That was Jamaica from Ed Roman. Now, Letters from High Altitudes is the name of the album. Now, you have a new album out. You still with us there, Ed?
I am, sir.
What's the name of the new album?
Red Omen. It's an anagram of my own name.
I saw.
No different than Adrian Marcato or Roland Castevet.
All right, well, we got a phone call here.
probably my lawyer.
It's my own name. I saw it. No different than.
Oh, they've got their YouTube on. You got to turn your stream off, guys.
Well, she hung up. Lori was trying to call. Oh, you there, Lori? Oh, lost her again.
If you're calling in, folks, remember to pause your YouTube feed.
Yes. You there, Lori?
Hey, Jason, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, hon?
Good, thanks. Sorry, I always tend to call when you guys, and then you see if there's a call, and I've let it ring too many times, so I apologize.
No problem. You got your YouTube off in the background now?
I just turned it off, yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. So what you have a question for Ed, or you wanted to chime in on some of the wide range of paranormal topics we've been going over?
You know what, there are so many topics. By the way, Ed, you're very talented. It's nice to see a fellow Canadian on here. I feel like I'm the only one on here.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Canucks.
Yes,
Yep.
I'm in Thunder Bay, Ontario. I don't know if you've ever been up here when you were talking about you being in the right area for Sasquatch. We definitely are. But yeah, I had a couple questions. First of all, what sort of drove you to produce that beautiful video Jason just showed from Jamaica? I've been there, obviously, beautiful people, and I was really touched by what you did, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts were behind it.
Wow, great question. You know, we went and you know, not being on vacation or traveling for almost 10 years, and did the resort just to try it out. And in a very short time, made a lot of friends with musicians, gardening staff, cooking people that took us out and showed us the real island. And what it was for me and why I wrote the tune is because after that first, let's say, jump outside of the proverbial gates, for me, it made me realize that the fear that everybody keeps talking about is only perpetuated in our own minds about those experiences. Don't leave the resorts without security. All of that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, and you talk to the average person from Jamaica, and they don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. Prior to, I'm always, you know, an incredible industry for tourism. Bauxite was their main export. That's changed a lot on the island. There's a lot of corporate farming going on, which is really affecting a lot of Jamaicans' lives. I wanted to try to show people what's outside the gates, and the fun, the living that I'm doing, the experiences that I'm having, so that they can feel maybe that I'm not so afraid kind of moment and take those kind of steps, not only just in Jamaica, and in some cases people's own backyard with their neighbors, but in all places around the world.
You know, I think you definitely accomplished that. I was there many years ago with my first husband, and we were told the same thing, not to venture off the resort. And we were really lucky. Actually, it was on our honeymoon, believe it or not. We met these two couples, got married the same weekend as we did. We're from Toronto. We were going to the same resort, and we were staying in Sandals. And, of course, there, you know, don't go off the resort, whatever. But we did do that, and I'm so glad that we did. You got to experience the people, the culture. Like you say, it's nothing like what you see in the resorts. And if you say you went to Jamaica or any of these places like this, if you don't leave the resort, I don't think you really experience the whole island or culture or the people or anything like that.
No, you're totally right, and everything changes as a result. How they perceive you. I mean, going to Coronation Market, people said, Ed, don't go to Kingston. District 3, Port Royal, you know, there I am buying vegetables and cooking oil and a bunch of different things because we were having a big fish fry. And walking out of the market, there's a Humvee with, you know, 50 caliber machine gun and guys in flak jackets and vests and helmets pointed at a building waiting for something to happen. But life still occurs. And that's what it really showed me, that the fear has to be dispelled somehow in some kind of a way. And I love you for asking the question, because I love making that video and putting that tune together, and I hope it not only just, like, you know, encourages people to go to Jamaica, but again push that vibe of, like, not being afraid and getting out there and experiencing life.
Yeah, and basically experience what Jamaica really is. because my husband, actually, that I'm with now, him and I have so many philosophical discussions about many things, but he went to Cuba when he was 18, and his parents and him were on a resort, and he met a bunch of people from all over the world, and that's what they did, was they went out, they experienced all kinds of things. The reason what made me think of that was when you said with the F-15s and all the guns. He said one night he was walking home, one of the girls in his group, they'd been at one of the bars there, and they got stopped and didn't speak a word of Spanish, and they had guns pointed at their heads, and obviously they got through okay, and that's not what the true experience is there in that country, but I mean, it really does happen. So we're so glad that you brought that up. But I think that's with any place, you have good and you have bad.
You got that here?
Well, and the other thing about it too, on a cultural level, is
yes.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. Sorry, what did you say?
Sorry, the other thing about it on a cultural level is that, and you must realize that too, coming from the Western Hemisphere, is that, okay, every Jamaican might have a cell phone now in this day and age, puts them into the 21st century. They may not always have running water or electricity or a place to bathe every day. They bathe in the river, depending on where they live. They're culturally still actively, verbally strong. The conversations and the type of meetings that I've had with people on porches in the middle of jungles and on beaches and in places people wouldn't normally go have been so powerful and electric. It's like you're spitting fire on the street. And the interchange of information. I've met a lot of farmers in Jamaica. A lot of them didn't know and understand anything yet, a lot about GMOs or what sponsored seed banks and certain things like that were about. That, for me, and that electric exchange of information was a big part of why I even keep going back there, because the country is so rich with abilities and capabilities to be strong. They don't need to be a part of the IMF, and they don't need to be tied into money sources. And I love that aspect too. Almost what I remember growing up in the 70s like as a kid, with that good conjecture and conversation and things seemingly happening as a result.
Well, like I said, it was a really beautiful video, and I was really interested in hearing why you did it. And I was expecting the answer you gave, but you answered it a lot more beautifully because it seemed that was the reason why you went there. And you know what? I really did enjoy that. I'll make sure that I watch it a few times over. My brother's a musician in town here, and actually so is my husband. I didn't get in touch with any music ability, but definitely very talented, and I'm so glad you did that video.
Thank you.
That was the first video I saw, first song I heard, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I've always
and a little tidbit, just so you know too, it's like off the top of that tune, that's called the Jamaican guitar case. When I go to Jamaica, I always buy a little acoustic guitar and I teach kids music while I'm there, because I've been teaching music for almost 25 years. They don't usually come with a guitar case. So what that is a garbage bag, a clear garbage bag. Put over the guitar, because it would rain in the mornings. We'd take the guitar out, go be playing all over the island, and that would protect it so it wouldn't get wet. So when I came home, I told my producer, Mike Jack, the story. We actually got a big garbage bag, put it on the guitar, and I cut the rhythm track on the acoustic with a garbage bag on the guitar.
That's awesome.
Well, you know what? It was a real pleasure to hear your stories tonight, Jason. I'm glad that you had it here tonight. I won't monopolize in case somebody else wants to call, but thank you again. Like I said, I'm going to be checking you out and adding you on YouTube for sure, Ed.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you. You have a great night.
Have a good night,
Bye-bye.
Charlie.
Bye-bye.
One of the reasons I've always wanted to go to Jamaica is I'm a big James Bond fan. And Ian Fleming's, fell in love with Jamaica. And, he put a lot of that into his books. And I always thought that I don't want to, if I go to Jamaica, I don't want to just be trapped in the resort. I want to see it. I want to go out and see it.
Buddy, let me tell you a little story. There's a place I stay at called Real Jamaica. It's owned by famous recording artist Papa Curvin Merchant. It's 4 cabins, another house, full-on recording suite with a studio, Pro Tools. Right next door is UB40. The house next to that is Ian Fleming's place.
Oh,
you climb down the cliff line and swim in Ian Fleming's boat slip. Walk 5 minutes down the road and there is James Bond Beach.
Oh man, I'd be in heaven.
It's beautiful, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's very quiet. It's not at all like a resort or anything like that. Extremely inexpensive, but once again, an incredible jump point because it's Oracabessa, technically race course. You're in the center port and most northern part of the island. You can be in Kingston in 2 hours. You can get to Mobay in 2 hours, and from Mobay, if you wanted to go down to the grill, it's only another hour and 45 minutes. I mean, you can pretty much cut across the entire island in 8.5 hours.
Yeah, it's one of my dreams to go to Jamaica, and I'm gonna have to rewatch this episode and make sure I get right down what you said because that sounds like
I'll
the
send it
perfect
to you.
place
I'll
for
send.
me.
I'll send.
Yeah.
I'm going in February, so maybe you should go.
Find me on Facebook, Ed, because I couldn't find you on Ed. I could find your page, but find me on Facebook because I would love to know. You know, one day I've told my wife I've always wanted to go to Jamaica because I have like a second edition and third edition James Bond novels from Ian Fleming's, and it's just been one of my dreams to go there. Well, many places I want to go, but Jamaica's one of them. You know, just to be on the beach there. I just want to sit on the beach with a martini in my hand and just relax.
Get you a nice red stripe with a little bit of Campari
Red
in it.
stripe,
and papaya.
yeah. That'll bring me back to my teenage years when we used to sneak red stripes out of my friends' parents' fridge. When you were having these conversations with these guys down in Jamaica, did you ever hear some cool paranormal stories at all from these guys?
Well, I mean, Rose Hall and obviously Johnny Cash's old place that he had down there. Both of those are well-known ghost and or paranormal sites. But that's the thing about the island itself. It is ripe with spiritual activity. I almost think even in some way, and I don't know if it's ever been proven or shown, and maybe they're always in a state of fluctuation, but some sort of like electrical telluric-like currents running underneath the island, and it must come from like Cuba across the United States and then subdivide and head towards St. Thomas in the Dominican Republic or something, because there's this, okay, granted, you got off an aircraft, you feel the humidity, you can smell the salt in the air, and you realize, yeah, I'm on vacation. I'm in this beautiful place. I'm taking some time off, spending it with some family, visiting friends. But as you're walking around the island, and I guess this for me, I feel this subtle energy in the rock in some of the places that I've walked around, especially up in St. Mary's and St. Ange, which is the mountains, right? That's where 9 Mile is. That's where Bob Marley was born. That's where he's buried. That shot in the video where you see me say the home of Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Jimmy Cliff. Yeah. Bob Marley's house and where he grew up is a 5-minute walk around that bend. And 9 Mile, which is the now very touristy kind of like place where he is, and they've turned the old family resident. You know, I didn't want to get too close to where that was to create any kind of a distraction or people wondering what I was doing. But that whole area, I mean, Bob himself felt that, and his idea of where he got the idea of the natural mystic came from those mountain ranges. I sat on Bob's Rock, which is a place where even when he writes, stone rock for my pillow, he's looking out into that beautiful mountain range, feeling and seeing something on an energy source. And like you've always channeling, and Bob believed in that sort of higher feeling of the mystic. I mean, it is the highest point in Jamaica. Even when in the tune, he says, "Don't hold me up on this bridge. I've got to reach Mount Zion, the highest region. And if you are Bullbucker, let me tell you this, I'm a duppy conqueror." In other words, he's conquered ghosts. He sang in the ghost yards. He sang to the dead yard people. But that feeling of the highest region, he's really, in a way, turned it into the music. And as a young kid, when I fell in love with reggae, Bob Marley and many other reggae artists, I felt like there's some reason to go there. I had to make like a pilgrimage. Even when I met Bunny Wailer, and he for a time had lived St. Mary's, St. Anne's area, and then was in Kingston, because Bob and him are actually kind of related through parents, that, meeting with him and talking with him, the jus of that island is almost permeated into the people. So having a spiritual conversation with them about anything, even if it's biblical. I mean, Bob himself and the Rastafarian concept follow a biblical diet.
Yeah.
That is for me really like interesting. I've really studied what that is and try to understand more and more about what Rastafarianism is, other than the worship of Haile Selassie and those kinds of things too, which for me is still a little bit weird, but regardless, yeah, they're all over there. There's stories about spirits that show up in towns that have been just recently passed, and they're walking down the main street of the town and everybody sees them. It's like I said, you can't help but not get it from there, because they're still so connected to the feeling of it.
They're not out playing Pokemon, that's why. I mean, no, it's the truth though. I mean, we've become so like I see it like the awareness of the paranormal in America and TV. It's definitely grown. People are more aware of it and more interested in it, but at the same time, we're shutting ourselves off from the spiritual world in a way with all of our technology. Is like you said, it's a tool, but at the same time, we become the tool.
That's right.
And I feel like that. Like people are. The TV is the church. The phone is the church. It's not. They're not looking into their souls. They're looking at what's Kim Kardashian doing right now.
But see, this is what I think in a weird way, and I guess what I was getting at before is this anthropological warfare that is allowed to perpetuate. And I could go on and do shows about this kind of a thing myself, but there's so much defocusing. What I'd like to say is that people are really smart. They're incredibly clever, but they're extremely defocused. And as a result, they get caught up in what you just said, the semantical Kardashian, what's the Justin Bieber extravaganza, fear mechanism thing that we keep rolling around and arguing and looking at like it's a car accident because we can't believe it happened. It's there for a reason. And my dad was in politics long enough for me to understand that certain behavior occurs in big government, and a lot of people don't know about it. And a lot of times things are thrust into the public on purpose to defocus people for a reason. And before you know it, things and rules and regulations and the way that we used to do things are no longer there anymore. So,
well, that's a whole other rabbit hole I could totally go down.
I told you.
Oh yeah.
What did I tell you, you crazy kids?
I mean, we're going through that right now with this political election. I mean, this show is not a political show, but anybody knows me, I hate everybody.
Don't get started.
Yeah, Todd. Oh God.
Well, me neither. I think we're all in the same rowboat together, as far as I'm concerned. It's not really politics. I mean, my God, gentlemen, and ladies, the reality of it is like, you look at politics even 25 years ago or 30 years ago, and what it is now is this circus, character assassination, who's got more money, and really the average Joe is the person that should be running the country, for speaking on behalf. This is what my dad even hated.
Totally agree.
There is politics. He would call it politics. Because what you actually are a public servant. You are there to represent and be the voice for a multitude of people, and it's supposed to work on a kinetic level, municipality to state to federal. Same thing in this country, municipality to province to federal. But often, a lot of the times, what happens is there's a lot of corporate collusion and vested interest in how big government works behind the scenes that so many people don't see.
Oh, I know.
And then in the press, like you just said, we get caught up in the semantics of it, and before you know it, what are you talking about? Massive trade deals and organizations and monopolizations that nobody are allowed. When did this happen? And people don't even know how to deal with it. Or the banking crisis, or the credit swap fault derivative mortgage algorithm schemes. And it makes it so hard for the average person who just wants to live their life, be happy, raise kids, and exist to function, because you're always being
bombarded.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason, Ed's camera is frozen, so you might want to lock it back to you.
Oh.
Because all people are getting is a gray screen.
Okay.
I see you moving.
I was going to say, I didn't know if it was my signal or not, but yeah, your camera is just on your picture. It's not your camera. It might be your signal. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, you go directly to him. It just gives you the gray screen. And Ed, I think your father was close to right on that. I think it's polyticks. Poly is many, and ticks are blood-sucking parasites. So
That's weird. I just went back to the picture. Yeah, you're right. And that's the thing. It's like, how many tricks can we actually, get people to jump through? How many hoops do we get them to jump through? And so often, and it's not like, I'm sure there are wonderful people that are trying to do great things in politics, but at a certain point, there are many people that have their hands tied, have lost their jobs as a result of trying to stand up for what's right. And I think that's a clear example as to how the system is really working, which isn't right.
Well, yeah, well, it's easy even on a paranormal show that you can talk about politics, because if you want to talk about who's going to be hiding the existence of anything paranormal, it's going to be the government.
Yep.
So, Area 51, what more do you need to say?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a big one. Papoose, Dry Lake, Groom Lake, we could keep going on. No, that doesn't exist, but it does exist. No, but it doesn't exist. What?
Yeah, or that they use aliens to cover up something else that they're doing too.
Yeah, you guys had the one politician that came out there, or a retired politician that said that aliens do exist and there's many species.
Yeah.
So I've got to give you that. Canada at least had the nerve to do that.
That's Paul Hilliard, and he's actually a good family friend of ours. And
really?
I've had dinner with Paul.
We'll see now. Jason wants him on the show.
Well, see, if you want, I could send a message to Paul, and he's actually written a number of books, and he was also there for citizens awareness, for knowing, I can't remember what the big thing was where they held the public thing with the people that were formerly senators and congress people trying to do a fictitious yet serious look at the alien and our UFO equation. And he came out and he quite honestly said, look, there's a lot of information I've seen that substantiates the fact that there's something going on here. Most of the public doesn't know anything about it, and the reality is that they need to know. It's time. And the thing about it is that if there are vested interests in keeping it quiet as a result of making money from it and monopolizing certain aspects of what it is, that ain't healthy either.
No, and it's like, what's the big surprise going to come down on us one day because they've kept all of this from us?
Well, that's just it.
Yeah, you also you meant in the dangerous things, just even on the paranormal thing. You mentioned earlier about GMOs. That's a big one. That pisses me off big time. You want to get into politics? Is how much they've lobbied and controlled, right down to our president. In America is the worst country. They can get away with anything and everything, genetically modifying our food, and what's the repercussions of that down the line?
Well, you're totally right. I mean, look, even in my own country, Canada, it's no coincidence that Monsanto in '96 set up their head office at the oldest agricultural college that we have in this country, University of Guelph. It's a place where my father went to agricultural college, studied political science. My brother went to agricultural college there, veterinarian school. Okay, their head office is there. My friend Scott Downey, who's one of the oldest potato family farms in this country, was at a gig of mine one night. We were just chatting, talking about this exact same kind of stuff. He basically said, in '96, his prof brought all that student body from that year in front of all of them. Basically said, look, this is the last student body that's going to go through here learning all the classic cross-pollinating, saving seed aspects to old pharmacological practices that we've been doing here for over 150 years, including what happens at the Arkle test station, which is a specific station for cross-pollinating to create good crops, not genetically modified crops. So, with that said, what happens after that? Seed companies, they're going to have their heyday with you. And they offer everything to every farmer, even up here, and thank God the Mennonites don't participate in it. And a lot of other farmers that are savvy to it, they don't want to do it. But they refer to the Monsanto guys up here as the men in black, because they're information collectors. They'll come into the farm, they'll try to offer you the seeds. They'll give you some sort of a kickback notice, which means you get money even if the crop doesn't do well. But if the crop doesn't do that well in terms of their expectations, they have the right to confiscate the property, the tractor, the barn, the house. And the people that are growing next door, they want to know, where are they getting their seeds from? Are they storing their own seeds? All of those kinds of things makes you realize that this is not healthy. And they have far too much. Now, 95% of the farming board in this country was pleading with the agricultural minister just a number of years ago to say, please don't let this new bill go through, this new seed bill, which is a government-sponsored seed bank. And the minister is ignoring them. So,
because he's being paid off.
But bingo, and it's like a mafia-esque related thing. Remember when Vito Corleone's in the bed and he's like, "Where's Michael?" It's Michael that shot Salozzo and the police chief. You know, it's like, and he cries and he's, "Get out of here!" You know what? Why? Because Michael was going to be groomed to be the darling boy. When it came time, I thought maybe it would be Senator Corleone or Congressman Corleone. And it's the exact same thing. The corporations are breeding the right kind of people to be in these political. Like, look at the things with the EPA.
Preach, brother.
Yeah,
keep on preaching, because I totally agree.
The EPA is doing the same thing. I've seen people in Flint, Michigan, and different stuff that's going on across the United States. And the EPA is, oh no, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. What are you talking about? It's fine. This water is green and I can light it on fire. What are you telling me it's fine for? Am I stupid?
No, that's exactly it. I mean, and my biggest criticism of our current president is a big part of his campaign was funded by Montecito. And ever since he got into office, you know, and people can ask, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I can't stand either. But the biggest thing since he got in office, Montecito's gotten basically a blank check to do whatever the frick they want in this country.
Well, yeah, and that's it. And here's the thing, though. So I'm taking more of this and saying this to myself too every day, because the puppets are what they want us to fight over. There's a far bigger agenda behind that. And once we release ourselves from what that is, we'll be able to do that. You don't consider yourself a Republican or a Democrat. I don't consider myself to be a liberal or conservative. But I'll tell you this, and it's no secret, practically every 4 years for the last 20 years of my life, I've spoiled my ballot. And the reason I've done that is because it shows my disdainment and my exact belief that nobody is capable of doing this. And if 95% of the people or 51% of the populace actually voted against that idea, they spoiled their ballot, you'd have to have a re-election. People don't want certain delegates, then there should be a re-election. But the reality of it is everybody's forced into this crazy like cycle of, no, it has to get done. Look at the insanity. Look at the character assassination left to right. Your
problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, it's classic. You know, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm over.
Oh yeah, we gotta have. It's at the end of the show time, but I definitely want you back on again to talk. We could totally get into that conversation. There's a lot more to that completely that I'm very passionate about. I don't get very political on this show.
Well, and without it having to go overly political, there are dark, clandestine, spiritual overtones to all of those actions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ed, for coming on the show tonight. I definitely want you to come back on again. I love your music. The new album, where can they pick it up at?
You can get it everywhere that music lives. In the United States, if you want to actually own a physical copy of it, CD Baby in Portland, Oregon will ship it directly to you. Digitally, iTunes, Amazon, CD Baby, it's all over the place. Pick it up. It's a lot of fun. It's called Red Omen. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you think.
And also, they can find you. Is there a website too for you?
edroman.net, and all my social media is there: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can check me out on SoundCloud, any of my old stuff. I'm out there on Instagram as well. Come on by and say hi. And
so you know, Ed, the chat room is sending out accolades and the waves to you and saying they want you back. So
hey, and I just want to say, what a fantastic show. The way you've got it all set up, and the hosts and people that are running it, Todd, everybody here, it's just so professional. It's like, I love doing this, so I'd be happy to come back. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you. Next week, let's see. I don't even have my schedule. Talk about being professional. I don't even remember who I have scheduled next week. I didn't even look today. Here we go. Oh, yeah, it sounds professional. I don't even know who I have on. Debbie, I'm going to butcher this name because I never get to talk to these people before the show. Vigiu, Viguie, V-I-G-U-I-E. We're going to talk about demonology and the dark forces that she has written about in her fiction and nonfiction books. So that'll be next Sunday, 10 p.m. to midnight, same bad channel, same bad time. Thanks, everybody in the chat room. I have the best chat room on YouTube. I truly believe that. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. See you
Good night
next
to you,
Sunday.
everybody.
Yep. And this is another
Good night,
song.
all. Thank you for having me.
And Ed, this is a song from my old band back in my early 20s. Me on guitar.
Take it.
Way where silence over day. Just no witness where the living have our when times are still, my passion from the will. Never found my
So what you guys think of Ed tonight? Really enjoyed having him on. I love having other musicians on the show, just because that was a big part of my life for a long time. And like we talked about with us, Tracy Sue the other night, musicians totally channel. I swear, we are in tuned a little bit more to the paranormal. I swear, because of our experiences writing songs. Thank you guys again. 10 p.m. to midnight next Sunday with Debbie Bigfoot. I'm probably butchering that. We'll talk about demonology. We'll talk about her fiction books on demonology and her real life experiences with it. Thank you guys. See you next Sunday, 10 p.m. to midnight. Have a great night, and thanks again for watching.